Because I have a small soap business, I like to include tools and equipment that you can use that'll help elevate your company or brand. And I really do think that lasers are one of those machines that people often don't think about. But if you are a fan of customizing things, then I think you should seriously consider getting a laser machine. I've reviewed a few on this channel already, but today's video is going to focus on this guy. This is the Creality Falcon Pro 2, and the folks at Creality did send me this machine to see how it measured up against the other laser machines that I have reviewed on this channel. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing. I'm going to go over the setup of this guy. I'm also going to talk about the features that this machine has that might set it apart from the other laser machines that I've featured on this channel. You're also going to see this guy in action. I'm going to do a few projects to show you how you can use this machine for your own small business. And lastly, I'm going to go over the pros and cons, tell you whether or not I think this machine is worth the investment for your small business, and then give you some final thoughts. So let's go ahead and dive into the video. Setup of the machine was actually pretty straightforward. Everything was packaged really well and the instructions were really easy to follow. The package included some materials for test burns and also laid everything out in a way that everything was very easy to find. Compared to other machines, the setup of this one was pretty easy, although I did have a lot of difficulty with this red plastic sheet that you had to slide through these slats. It was really hard to do that, but once I got it together, it was fine. The software side of it wasn't as smooth because I'm new to Lightburn, but after focusing and calibration tests for the camera and making sure that the software for both the machine and the laser were up to date, I was ready to go. As you can see, this machine is fully enclosed, meaning you can use your laser machine without having to wear safety glasses as it's running, although they do provide a pair of safety glasses in the package. The laser in the machine right now is a 40-watt diode. They do have a 60-watt diode laser available if you want a little bit more power, and they also have a 20-watt diode laser if you don't want as much. So there's some choices there. They also have a 1.6 watt laser, which I have here. I have not tested this guy. Depending on what you want to laser, the power of that laser definitely is important. Although the 40-watt laser is pretty good. It can cut through pretty thick wood, but there are some limitations with the diode laser. If you want to be cutting clear acrylic, or if you want to etch glass, for example, I've done it with a diode, but I think the best type of laser for that is a CO2 laser. I have found for my uses for my small business, a 40-watt laser and lower is plenty. In terms of build quality, this doesn't feel as substantial as, say, an xTool laser. I have two of those lasers. For the price of this machine, which I will show you down here, I think this is a pretty good machine. It seems pretty sturdy. Instead of a lid that opens and closes on a hinge, it has a sliding thing here, which feels a little flimsy, which does the job in terms of protecting your eyes, but as an actual cover, it just doesn't seem as smooth or as polished as it could be. As you can see, I have my computer over here and it is hooked up to the machine. The camera that is on this machine is connected to my computer as well as the machine itself. Although if you have Lightburn, you can take the file, save it onto a little SD card, and there is a slot over here that you can put your SD card and the machine will run the job for you wirelessly that way. But one benefit to hooking up the machine to your computer is that you have this camera view, and that'll give you a preview of what is down there so that you can place your design or whatever you're wanting to burn on your material on the material itself. I did test how accurately I was able to place my design based on the camera, and it did pretty good. In terms of software that this machine is compatible with, if your computer runs Windows, then there is a free software that you can use. But if you are a Mac user, then you're going to have to use Lightburn, and that's something that I haven't done before with the other machines. The other companies have software that I was able to use for free. Lightburn has a subscription model, or you have to pay for it in order to use it. Because of how much lasering I do, I was considering getting Lightburn anyways before this machine came, and I'm really glad that I got an excuse to actually go ahead and do that, because once I was in there and I used it to set up the machine and also run a few projects, it was pretty neat. I like Lightburn a lot, so I'm excited to continue using Lightburn for a lot more of my lasering projects. A cool thing about Lightburn is that you can run these test burns, and you can see the exact settings that you will need to use in order to get the desired cut or even engraving that you want to do on really whatever material you want. So these cotton bags are pretty delicate. The laser machine cut right through the material here, but there were some settings where I could get an engraving. So I was hoping that I could engrave maybe my logo onto these bags. So I'm going to test that out, see how well it works out. Before you can engrave an image onto your material, you need to focus the laser, which you do using this metal focusing tool. This helps you determine the height of the laser, and once you figure that out, then you can close the lid and then start lasering. I selected the parameters for this project based on the test burn that I did, and after waiting, I think this took me about a minute, the results were pretty good. I mean, it wasn't the most clear engraving, but I still got a pretty good result. The next project that I want to show you was a big deal for me. I needed a price sign for my products in the small shop that I have my products in my neighborhood. The goal was to engrave the design on wood and then cut out the shape in the same job. This was the first time I was doing this, so I was a little bit nervous, but there was something about Lightroom software that made this kind of project seem so much more approachable than it ever has been. So after creating the design in Canva, I uploaded it into Lightburn, and then I was able to use layers to first engrave the design on the wood, and then a second layer to cut it out. And here is the result. I love how it turned out. I think that the font and the text was very, very clear. And the cut was also really well done. When cutting wood using a laser machine, something that is of a concern is the soot that it might produce. And you can control that by adjusting your settings, but I was able to get this really clean cut on the first try using the parameters that I figured out with the test burns that I did. Some things about the design that I didn't like were the QR codes that I created. They didn't work when I tried to use my phone to open up those links, and I think it's because they burned too deeply and it became a little too dark. And I also think that the numbers for the prices came out a little small, so I'll have to adjust that. But in terms of the design of the berries and the flowers at the top of the sign, I'm really happy with how it turned out. The next project that I wanted to try was engraving these plastic lids, and I have been able to engrave plastic lids using a blue laser. So I wasn't sure how this was going to turn out with the 40-watt laser. As you can see here, it was a bust, but since I know that I can engrave these plastic lids using a different kind of laser, it wasn't the biggest deal. Next up, I wanted to give engraving cardstock a try, so I tried out this craft colored cardstock to see whether or not it would give me a good engraving. And you have to be careful with paper because it burns so easily, but after some tweaking, I was able to get a pretty good engraving, which makes me feel optimistic for trying out different kinds of designs on materials like cardstock. I tried the same design on white cardstock as well, and the result was pretty good too. So it's nice to know that this machine can engrave both craft colored cardstock and white colored cardstock. I know for me, I use a lot of white colored cardstock, so the possibilities this grants me and the doors it opens is very, very exciting. I was really encouraged to try engraving these boxes next. I ship a lot of packages and I use these shipping boxes whenever I do that. I usually put my logo with a tagline on a sticker and stick that on the box, but I was wondering whether or not I could use this machine to engrave a logo on these boxes. So after doing a few test burns and doing a little tweaks, I managed to get a really great burn on these boxes. So I showed you the results of trying to engrave on plastic, but I wanted to show you what the engraving looks like on metal. It turns out much better. The type of engraving that you'll get on metal is this ghost-like image. I really like the polished appearance of it, and I think the possibilities for customizing candles or anything else you put in jars that use a metal lid, the possibilities are endless with that. And yes, I even tried to engrave soap. I have been able to engrave soap successfully using other machines, and I think if I took the time to really tweak and hone in on the parameters and experiment, I might be able to get a good result, but I wasn't able to do that this time around. Overall, I was really pleased with the results of the different materials that I tried to engrave. The machine made it really easy to jump right into the next project, so I was flying through these experiments so fast, which made me very excited about what else I could be engraving. Let's jump right into the pros and cons. Once the machine was set up, it was pretty simple to use and very quick to use. I was able to cycle through a lot of different materials because of how quick and easy it was to use this machine due to that camera, which I'll get to in a minute. That's another pro. But to get there, I had to deal with the setup of it, which I will touch on in the cons. But once everything is up and running, it was pretty smooth. I rarely ran into any issues, and any little glitches that happened easily and quickly resolved. Another big pro of this machine is its camera. I was surprised at how often I relied on that camera to place my engraving design onto the material, and it was pretty accurate for the most part. I did have some weird things happen, but that was because I tried to engrave on materials that were a little bit taller than the focus tool that the machine comes with. But overall, this camera was really great, and I can see it being very useful when I want to batch engrave a lot of objects, because I can quickly place that design on a few things at once in one job. I really liked the quality of the projects that I was able to engrave and cut with this machine. Especially this project. I'm really, really proud of how this turned out. The QR codes, though, these don't work, unfortunately. When I try to take a picture of these with my phone, the link doesn't pop up. So I'm gonna have to go over these with a sticker or something, because the engraving just does not work. It might be just a little bit too sooty or smudgy. Speaking of soot, I don't see a ton of smoke or char on the design. It looks pretty clean and crisp, which is nice. I'm really happy with how sharp the images turned out, and I think I will continue to keep experimenting with my small business things that I could engrave and this machine. With a 40-watt laser, you have a huge variety of materials that you can cut and engrave. It's a pretty powerful laser, and it's all you really need for the majority of things. There are some limitations. You can't laser engrave or cut white reflective materials, although you could engrave white matte things like the paper that I did there, the cardstock. And you also cannot cut and laser engrave clear things. Although there are ways around that, it's a little bit finicky. So, I've tried a few times using a 40-watt diode, trying to laser engrave glass, and I did get some good results, but they weren't great results. There's specific lasers for that. So if that's something that you want to start doing or start lasering, then look into a CO2 laser, the more powerful lasers. But for a beginner, or you're just starting your lasering journey, a 40-watt laser is plenty powerful. Speaking of things that you can cut and engrave, another huge benefit of this machine is that you can create a whole other business just lasering things. There's a huge demand for customizing a whole bunch of stuff, and with the cutting power of this laser, you can get into carpentry, you can get into making a whole bunch of things, which a lot of people successfully do. So if lasering is something that you are interested in and you buy this laser and you find that you really love it, then you can start doing that as a job, start selling things that you've lasered, and that opens up the possibility of you being able to earn the money back that you spent on this machine. Now let's go into the cons. This is not a plug the machine into a wall and it's good to go type of machine. There's a lot of techie things, a lot of stuff that's not going to go completely smooth. So if you are not a tech savvy person, or you don't have a tech savvy friend or partner that can help you with the setup of this machine, then you just might struggle a little bit. Even sliding that plastic into that frame was really hard. Little things that you got to do, not just for the machine physically, plugging things in and making sure everything is okay in the assembly, but the software side of it can be quite complicated as well. So I would absolutely take that into consideration, because another thing that you'll need to be tech savvy in is running the software to be able to perform these projects and jobs. It is a huge, huge learning curve, so be prepared for that if you are wanting to get into the world of lasering. Another con is that this machine is very loud if you are using it with a smoke purifier, which I had to do since, as you can see, I've set this machine up in my home. When you're lasering materials, no matter what that material is, it's going to produce some sort of fume or smoke that is not healthy to inhale. So unless you have a vent that you can, through the tube that's going out of that machine, out of a window, or if you don't have a shop that you can set up this machine in that's open to the air, that will give you a safe environment to run this machine, you're going to need that smoke purifier. And unfortunately, this is a very loud machine. So if you have a room in mind or a spot in mind for this machine and it doesn't have easy access to a window and you're going to need that smoke purifier, make sure it's at a spot where you don't mind a lot of noise being made. Another con is that this machine is not completely wireless. You're going to need to plug it into a computer in order to operate it, and the camera as well. There is a way through Lightburn where you can save your projects on a little SD card and a spot in the machine where you can plug that SD card in, and the machine will run the project that way. but it does not have Bluetooth capabilities so that you're able to see the camera in real time and thus operate at a distance away from the machine. So when you're considering your workspace, make sure that you are planning a space that will fit both a computer and this machine next to it, or work towards being comfortable saving your projects on that SD card and then transferring it to the machine. Speaking of Lightburn, another con is that you are going to have to learn to use Lightburn and use the machine through Lightburn if you are not a Windows user. I'm a Mac user, so I had to pay to get Lightburn. Lightburn does offer a free trial. I think it lasts for about a month, so you can see whether or not you like it. But for the other laser machines that I have tested, I never had to invest in a software in order to use it. So although I heard a lot about Lightburn, I never took the plunge and tried it. But now that I have, I really, really like Lightburn. Maybe because I've lasered a bunch of things by this point, but Lightburn really is able to hone in on your project and make a lot of things a lot easier. Like being able to create the sign. I'm sure you could do it with the software that I've used through the other machines, but Lightburn made this really quick and easy to figure out and set up and then execute. But I do think it's worth the investment. I really like it and I will continue to use it. So here are my final thoughts. Is the Creality Falcon Pro 2 worth it? You can get really great results with a good machine at a good price point. Keep in mind that there will be a big learning curve for you if you are brand new to this, and the fact that you should have some technical knowledge, otherwise you'll be struggling and you're okay with that. That's something to consider. I am so happy with the results of my projects. I think that they turned out really good. So I see myself doing more of this customization and more lasering things, not just for my small business, but for also projects around my home. I'm looking forward to that, and I know that I can do that with this machine. It worked really well once it was all set up, and I absolutely did enjoy my time working with it. Getting great results does require a lot of experimentation, though, as well. Keep that in mind, that you might have to tweak things a lot and over a period of time, doing a lot of test burns before you get the results that you want. So it's not just being able to customize everything right away. You're going to have to do a lot of experimenting, and if you don't have the time for that, then maybe I wouldn't consider something like this, because you can get results like that by outsourcing the engraving and the cutting, or if you want to get your own custom anything, you can do that on Etsy. So really, if you are the type of person that likes to have complete control over your projects, if you like to learn new things, if you don't mind playing around with software, or you don't mind playing around with different results and trying things over and over again, then this might be a good machine for you to get you started on that lasering journey. But that is the video for today. Thank you so much to Creality for sending me the Creality Falcon Pro 2. I really enjoyed my time with it, and I will continue using it to see what else it can do for my small business. And I will absolutely be sharing with you guys the projects that I end up creating. So stay tuned for that. And until the next video, keep smiling, keep being awesome, and keep making beautiful things like customized signs and other customized things using a laser engraver. Bye, guys.